The lobby of Franklin Trust Bank smelled faintly of polished marble and fresh coffee. It was a slow Wednesday afternoon, but the air carried that same quiet tension that came with any bank. People spoke in hushed voices, and the soft clicking of keyboards filled the silence. At the entrance, Jamal Carter, a 15-year-old boy in a hoodie and sneakers, stepped cautiously inside. He clutched a worn backpack close to his chest, scanning the room nervously. Jamal wasn't here for himself. He was here for his mother. She had given him a check to deposit, her handwriting neatly scrawled on the top corner, and trusted him to take care of it while she was stuck in back-to-back meetings. Jamal was polite, well-spoken, and quiet, but he didn't look like the usual clientele of this bank. And that's where the trouble began. Behind the counter stood Margaret Hensley, the bank's branch manager. She was in her late 40s, with sharp features, a neatly pressed blazer, and a permanent air of superiority. Margaret had worked her way up in the financial world, but her ego had grown faster than her resume. When she spotted Jamal walking toward her counter, her expression tightened. "Can I help you?" she asked curtly, looking him up and down. "Yes, ma'am," Jamal said softly, placing the check on the counter. "I'd like to deposit this." Margaret took the check, her eyes narrowing as she read the name at the top, Monica Carter. Her gaze flicked back to Jamal. "And you are her son," Jamal said, smiling nervously. Margaret pursed her lips. "Do you even have an account here?" Jamal nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am. My mom does. She asked me to." Margaret held up a hand, silencing him. "Do you have ID?" "Yes, ma'am." Jamal fished into his backpack and handed over his school ID card. Margaret raised an eyebrow, examining it. "This isn't a government-issued ID," she said sharply. "We can't just take checks from anyone off the street." Jamal's face flushed. "Ma'am, my mom banks here. She said I could deposit it for her." Margaret scoffed. "That's not how it works. You can't just stroll in here in a hoodie and expect us to process thousands of dollars like it's pocket change." A few people in line shifted uncomfortably, sensing tension. Jamal's stomach churned. "Ma'am, I'm not trying to cause trouble." "You already are," Margaret interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "In fact, this check looks suspicious." She held it up to the light dramatically, as if she were solving a mystery. Jamal froze. "Suspicious?" Margaret nodded. "Fraud is a serious crime. For all I know, you stole this." Jamal's mouth opened in shock. "I stole it?" "No, ma'am, it's my mom's." Margaret cut him off again. "Sit over there," she said, pointing to a small waiting area. "I'm calling the police." The room fell silent. Heads turned. A woman in line whispered her friend. Jamal's chest tightened, his heart racing. He'd done nothing wrong, yet everyone was staring at him like he was a criminal. I didn't do anything." Jamal stammered. "Please, just call my mom." Margaret ignored him, picking up the phone on her desk. "Yes, I need officer sent to Franklin Trust Bank. Possible fraud suspect. Young male, black, about 15. Hoodie and backpack. Yes, I'll hold him here." Jamal's hands trembled as he sank into a chair. A little boy sitting nearby whispered loudly to his mother, "Why are the police coming for him?" His mother hushed him. Margaret hung up and crossed her arms, glaring at Jamal like she just solved a crime. "You're not going anywhere," she snapped. Minutes felt like hours as Jamal sat there, trying not to cry. Every pair of eyes in the bank was on him. Margaret returned to the counter and began loudly discussing the situation with the teller. "These kids think they can walk in here with stolen checks," she muttered loudly. "Not on my watch." Jamal's ears burned. He wanted to disappear. A man in line spoke up. "Ma'am, I'm pretty sure this is just a misunderstanding. He's a kid." Margaret turned sharply. "Sir, this isn't your business. We follow protocol here." The man raised his hands defensively, but muttered, "Doesn't look like protocol. Looks like profiling." Margaret's cheeks flushed with anger. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," the man said, folding his arms. "You didn't even verify the account before calling the cops." Margaret ignored him, but her eyes darted around nervously. as she realized others were starting to whisper. Jamal's phone buzzed in his pocket. He quickly texted his mom. "Mom, please come to the bank. They think I'm stealing your check." They called the cops. The sound of sirens outside made Jamal's heart drop. 2 officers walked in, hands resting on their belts. Margaret waved them over dramatically. "That's him," she said, pointing at Jamal like he was a danger suspect. The officers approached. "Son, can we talk to you for a second?" Jamal's voice cracked. "I didn't do anything. Please, call my mom." One officer crouched down. "Do you have any other ID? Any proof this check is yours to deposit?" Jamal shook his head helplessly. "Just my school ID. My mom's name is on the account." Margaret interjected. "I told you it's fraud. He doesn't belong here." The officer gave her a skeptical look. "Ma'am, did you even check the account before calling us?" Margaret bristled. "I know fraud when I see it." Before the officer could respond, the bank door swung open. The sound of high heels clicking on marble echoed through the lobby. Heads turned. A tall, confident woman in a sleek navy suit strode in, her presence commanding attention. Her voice cut through the tension. "Where's my son?" Jamal's head snapped up. "Mom!" Margaret's smirk faltered as Monica Carter approached, eyes blazing. She didn't need to raise her voice to demand respect. Her aura did it for her. The officer stepped back instinctively. Margaret swallowed hard. Something about this woman felt important. "Ma'am, who are you?" Margaret asked, her voice suddenly unsure. Monica Carter turned slowly, her tone icy. "I'm the CEO of Franklin Trust Bank, and you've just made a massive mistake. Would you have spoken up if you saw this happening? You're como bilo." Make sure you're subscribed. Tap that bell to see what Monica does next. This isn't over. The bank lobby fell completely silent. Even the hum of the printers and the soft chatter at the teller desks seemed to pause as Monica Carter strode forward. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor, echoing like a gavel striking in a courtroom. Jamal rushed to her side, relief flooding his face. "Mom, I tried to text you." "I got your message," Monica said softly, her hand resting reassuringly on his shoulder. She turned her piercing gaze to Margaret Hensley, the bank manager, who suddenly found herself fidgeting with the hem of her blazer. Margaret tried to recover her composure, clearing her throat. "Ma'am, I was just following protocol. This young man, Monica interrupted, her voice smooth but firm, "is my son, and I'd love to hear more about this protocol that led you to humiliate him in front of a lobby full of customers and call the police on him." Gasps rippled through the small crowd of bystanders. Even the 2 police officers exchanged glances. Margaret's confidence faltered, but she tried to regain control. "Mrs. Carter, I wasn't aware." "That's Miss Carter," Monica corrected, her voice sharp as glass. "And your ignorance is an excuse. Tell me, Ms. Hensley, did you even check the account my son came here to deposit into? Or did you make assumptions based on how he looked?" The tension in the room thickened. A woman in line pulled out her phone to record. The murmuring of customers grew louder. Margaret flushed crimson. I was just being cautious. You know fraud is common these days. I was only doing my job." Monica stepped closer, her expression calm but icy. "Your job is to provide service and security. What you did was racially profile a minor and treat him like a criminal. You didn't even try to verify the check before escalating the situation. You called the police on a 15-year-old boy." "My boy," Margaret stammered. I didn't mean any harm." Yet harm was done. Monica cut in smoothly. She turned to the officers. "Gentlemen, I appreciate your professionalism. You may stand down. I'll handle this internally." One officer nodded. "Understood, ma'am." The other gave Margaret a pointed look before the 2 quietly stepped back, clearly recognizing Monica's authority. Margaret's jaw tightened. "You're handling this internally?" "Yes," Monica said evenly. She gestured toward the large framed photo of executives on the wall, where her own face smiled back in a power suit. "You see, I don't just bank here. I own this bank. And every employee in this building works under me. The room erupted in whispers. Customers glanced between Monica and Margaret, astonished. Someone muttered, "She's the CEO." Another whispered, "That's her son." Margaret's face drained of color. I didn't know. That's the problem. Monica said coldly. You didn't care to know. You assumed. Monica's voice grew louder, not in anger, but in controlled authority. She turned to the growing crowd of customers. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the scene today. This is not the standard of service we uphold at Franklin Trust. I'm deeply sorry for what my son and all of you just witnessed. A woman from the back called out, "Good for you. People need to be held accountable." Others nodded in agreement. Monica turned back to Margaret, who was now visibly trembling. "Margaret Hensley, is it?" "Yes, ma'am," Margaret whispered, her voice barely audible. "Ms. Hensley," Monica said, her tone calm but cutting. "Your conduct today was disgraceful. Not only did you humiliate a customer, but you called the police on a minor for trying to deposit a legitimate check. That's negligence. That's profiling. And that's a liability to this institution." Margaret opened her mouth to protest, but Monica raised a hand. "Save it. I've already seen enough." She gestured toward a security guard who had been lingering nearby. "Please escort Ms. Hensley to my office. HR will be joining us shortly." The guard hesitated. Yes, ma'am." Margaret's face twisted. "Wait, you're firing me?" Monica's eyes were steel. "We'll discuss your employment status privately. But I can tell you now, your actions today will have consequences." As Margaret was escorted away, Jamal shifted nervously beside his mother. "Mom, I didn't mean to cause all this trouble." Monica crouched down to meet his eyes, her tone softening. "Sweetheart, you didn't cause anything. You walked in here to do a simple task, and someone made you feel small for it. That's not your fault." Tears pricked Jamal's eyes. "Everyone was staring at me. I thought I was going to get arrested." Monica hugged him tightly. "And that's exactly why I won't let this slide. No one makes you feel that way and gets away with it." The moment was tender but powerful. Customers nearby nodded sympathetically, some even clapping softly. Monica stood tall again, addressing the staff behind the counter. "To every employee here, listen carefully. Franklin Trust is a place where every customer is to be treated with dignity and respect. That's not negotiable. If I ever hear this happening again, you won't be working here." The tellers nodded quickly, some looking embarrassed, others grateful. One young teller raised her hand timidly. "Ms. Carter, I'm so sorry. I tried to tell her to verify the account first. She wouldn't listen." Monica offered a small smile. "Thank you for speaking up. It takes courage. Don't ever be afraid to do the right thing." Monica turned back to the customers, who were still watching in stunned silence. "I hope today serves as a reminder for all of us. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect, it can cost everything." A man in line nodded vigorously. "That's right." Another woman added, "We need more people like you." Monica smiled humbly, but her eyes were fierce. "We all need to speak up when we see injustice. So let me ask all of you," she glanced around the lobby, "if this was your son, your nephew, your friend, would you stay quiet?" Several customers shook their heads. "To everyone watching this video online," she said, gesturing toward the phones filming, "what would you have done if you were here? Let us know in the comments. We need these conversations." Just as Monica thought she had contained the situation, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID and her expression darkened. "It's the board of directors," she murmured to herself. Jamal looked up at her. "Is something wrong?" Monica's jaw tightened. "We'll see." She answered the call, her expression unreadable. "Yes, I'm aware of what happened. Excuse me? They're here." She hung up and looked around sharply. "Everyone, the situation isn't over. We're about to have company." The lobby door swung open again, this time. Several men in suits walked in, flanked by two other executives. The tension in the air doubled. "Would you have spoken up if you saw this happening?" Eyes drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. Hit that like button if you believe respect should be non-negotiable. The air in the bank lobby shifted as the men in dark suits entered, flanked by two other executives. Their presence was like a storm rolling in, silent but heavy. Customers instinctively stepped aside, whispering to each other. The tension that had already electrified the room now doubled. Jamal gripped his mother's hand tightly. "Mom, who are they?" Monica Carter's eyes narrowed. "That," she said quietly, "is the board of directors." At the front of the group was Richard Whitmore, a tall, silver-haired man with a polished smile that never quite reached his eyes. He walked with an air of entitlement, as though every square foot of the bank belonged to him. "Monica," he said smoothly, extending a hand she didn't take. "We need to talk." "I'd imagine we do," Monica said, her voice calm but firm. "Considering one of our managers just racially profiled my son, called the police on him, and humiliated him in front of a lobby full of customers." Richard smiled and faltered, but his eyes flickered with irritation. "Yes, I've been briefed. That's why we're here." Monica crossed her arms. "Briefed? That was quick. How?" Richard's smile widened slightly. "Because Margaret called me." Jamal's head snapped up. "Wait, she called you?" Richard turned to him, his tone patronizing. "Son, this is an unfortunate misunderstanding. No harm meant." Monica's jaw clenched. "Don't call him son. And don't insult us by minimizing what just happened." The customers around them murmured in agreement. One woman whispered loudly, "They're trying to sweep this under the rug." Another man muttered, "Classic." Richard glanced around at the crowd, clearly annoyed by their presence. "Let's step into your office, Monica. We'll discuss this privately." Monica didn't move. "No, we'll discuss it right here, in front of the people who watched this happen, in front of my son, who lived it." A ripple of applause came from the back. The customers were on Monica's side. Phones were still filming. Richard's smile tightened. "Very well," he said coolly. He motioned to his team, who spread out like bodyguards. Richard clasped his hands behind his back. "Margaret has been with this bank for 20 years. She claims she acted out of caution, not prejudice. She said your son's behavior was suspicious." Jamal's mouth fell open. "Suspicious?" I was sitting in a chair, terrified. Monica's voice was sharp. "Suspicious because he's black and wearing a hoodie. Let's call it what it is." The crowd murmured louder. A young man near the ATM spoke up. "She didn't even check the account first." Richard shot him a glare. "This is an internal matter." "No," Monica cut in, her voice rising slightly. "This is a public matter. This bank doesn't exist without its customers. And today, they witness what happens when bias goes unchecked. You think that's going to stay quiet? These people are live streaming as we speak." Richard glanced nervously at the glowing phone screens pointed in his direction. His confident posture faltered for a moment. Monica stepped closer, lowering her voice but keeping it firm. "I will not allow this to be brushed aside. Margaret humiliated my son. She abused her authority. And this institution will take responsibility." Richard's jaw tightened. "Monica, you've always been passionate. But sometimes passion clouds judgment. Margaret is valuable to this branch. She brings in high net worth clients. We can't just..." "Stop." Monica's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Do you know who built those client relationships? I did. I grew this bank from 3 branches to 40. And if you think for a second that a single manager who racially profiles children is more valuable than this bank's reputation, you're not fit to sit on this board." The crowd erupted in quiet cheers and gasps. Jamal looked up at his mother with awe. Jamal, usually shy and reserved, took a step forward. "Mr. Whitmore, can I ask you something?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." Jamal swallowed hard but stood tall. "If this was your son, and someone called the police on him for trying to deposit your check, would you be saying it was just a misunderstanding?" Richard blinked. The question hung in the air like a punch he hadn't seen coming. Jamal's voice grew steadier. "Because I was scared. I thought I was going to get arrested for nothing. And the way everyone looked at me, I'll never forget that." The crowd was silent now, every word sinking in. Monica placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder, pride shining in her eyes. Richard looked away, suddenly uncomfortable. I understand your feelings, son. Jamal cut him off, his voice trembling but firm. No, you don't. The tension in the lobby was electric. Someone whispered, "Good for him." Another voice said, "He's braver than half the adults in this room." Monica straightened. "Richard, if you won't take action, I will. And if that means calling an emergency board meeting tonight, I'll do it. This bank's reputation is already at risk. The video of this incident will go viral before dinner." Richard's confident mask cracked. He glanced nervously at the phones again. Perhaps we should discuss immediate disciplinary action." Monica's eyes narrowed. "There's nothing to discuss. Margaret Hensley is suspended effective immediately, pending termination, and I'll be sending a personal apology to every customer who witnessed this today." Richard looked like he wanted to protest, but the murmurs of approval from the crowd made it clear Monica had public support. Monica turned to the customers. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing with my son. Please share your videos, your stories. Speak out. We need voices like yours to hold people accountable." A woman called out, "We got your back." Another added, "Post a video. Let people see this." Monica smiled faintly. "And if you believe this kind of injustice should never happen again, subscribe to our channel. We share real stories like this one to make sure these conversations never stop." The security guard returned, escorting Margaret from Monica's office. Margaret's face was pale, her lips pressed tightly together. Monica faced her calmly. "Margaret, you're suspended. Effective immediately." Margaret's jaw dropped. "You can't." "I can," Monica interrupted. "And I will. HR will be in touch regarding your termination process. For now, you may leave." Margaret's face flushed with humiliation. She turned on her heel and stormed out, but not before the cameras caught every second. The crowd applauded as the doors closed behind her. Richard leaned toward Monica, his voice low. "You've made a lot of enemies on the board today." Monica didn't flinch. "I'd rather make enemies than excuses. This bank stands for trust. If we don't protect that, we have nothing." Richard's mouth tightened, but he didn't respond. Monica turned back to Jamal, who was staring at her with wide eyes. "You okay, baby?" He nodded slowly. You're amazing." She smiled softly. "I'm just doing what's right." Just as Monica thought the situation was winding down, a customer approached her cautiously. "Ms. Carter, there's something you should see." She handed Monica her phone. On the screen was a live video that had already racked up thousands of views. The caption read, "CEO confronts racist bank manager live." Monica's eyes widened. "Oh no, Mom," Jamal said softly. "Everyone's watching this." Monica took a deep breath. "Then we'd better make sure they see the whole truth. Would you have handled Margaret differently? Let us know in the comments. If you believe Monica did the right thing, hit the like button and subscribe. What would you do if this was your child? Comment your thoughts. The bank lobby buzzed with nervous chatter as Monica watched the live stream spread like wildfire. The woman holding the phone whispered, "It's on 3 different TikTok accounts already. People are furious." Monica glanced at the comments, scrolling across the screen. "Fire that manager. That poor boy. This is why we record everything. Shout out to the mom for standing up for her kid." Jamal's wide eyes reflected the screen. "Mom, they're all on our side." Monica put a hand on his shoulder. "That's good, baby. But it also means this is about to get a lot bigger than this bank." She looked up as Richard cleared his throat, his face pale. "Monica, I strongly recommend we take this conversation to your office." Monica shook her head. "No, we're past that point." She turned to address the crowd. "Everyone here deserves transparency. What happened today was wrong, and I want you all to know it won't be swept under the rug. This bank will make it right." The crowd erupted in applause. Several phones were now recording her every move. Monica knew she wasn't just speaking to the people in the lobby. She was speaking to thousands online, maybe millions by the end of the night. Minutes later, the bank's front door swung open and reporters rushed in, cameras flashing. Word spread faster than Monica could have imagined. Local news crews lined up outside, their microphones ready. Ms. Carter, Ms. Carter, a journalist called out. Is it true you're the CEO of this bank? Monica stood tall. Yes, and I'm here today not as your CEO, but as a mother whose child was humiliated and wrongfully accused because of racial profiling. This is not who we are as an institution, and it will never be acceptable. Flashes went off like lightning. Richard shifted uncomfortably behind her, whispering urgently, Monica, this is a PR disaster. We need to manage this quietly. Monica turned to him sharply. No, Richard, we don't need to manage this. We need to own it. The bank's side door opened and Margaret, escorted by security, tried to slip out unnoticed, but a customer spotted her. There she is. All eyes turned. Margaret froze, shielding her face from cameras. Ms. Hensley, a reporter called out, do you have a statement about why you called the police on a teenage boy? Margaret's face flushed. I was just doing my job, she stammered. He looked suspicious. Gasps and angry murmurs filled the lobby. Monica's eyes flashed. Suspicious because of what, Margaret? His hoodie? His skin color? Or because he was a young black boy holding a large check? Margaret's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Monica stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You had a choice. You chose bias over common sense. And now, you're being held accountable. The reporters swarmed Margaret as she pushed past them, escorted out of the building. The moment was captured from every angle. By nightfall, that clip alone would trend on social media with a caption, CEO confronts racist manager. Hours later, Monica sat in a conference room, facing the full board of directors. The air was thick with tension. Richard stood at the head of the table. Monica, while your intentions may have been noble, this situation has created a PR nightmare for the bank. Monica leaned forward. The nightmare wasn't me addressing the problem. The nightmare was the problem itself. A board member named Elaine adjusted her glasses. Our stock took a hit this afternoon. We've had calls from shareholders. They're worried about how this will affect their investments. Monica's voice was steady. And do you know what I told them? That accountability will make us stronger. Customers want to know they can trust us. Sweeping this under the rug would have destroyed that trust forever. Elaine frowned. And what about Margaret? She's been with us for years. Are you certain termination is the right move? Monica met her gaze firmly. Yes, if we keep her, we send a message that racism is excusable. We can't afford that message morally or financially. The boardroom fell silent. Richard's jaw clenched. You're making enemies, Monica. Monica's eyes hardened. I'm not here to make friends, Richard. I'm here to do what's right. If that makes me enemies, so be it. Back home that evening, Jamal sat in his room, scrolling through TikTok. His face lit up as he watched a clip of himself speaking in the bank lobby earlier that day. If this was your son, and someone called the police on him for trying to deposit your check, would you be saying it was just a misunderstanding? The video had already reached 1 million views. Thousands of comments flooded in. This kid is a hero. So proud of him for speaking up. That question hit hard. Monica peeked into his room. You okay, baby? Jamal looked up, tears in his eyes, but he was smiling. Mom, they're listening to me. Monica hugged him tightly. Of course they are. You spoke the truth. By the next morning, the story was everywhere. News anchors debated it on national television. Hashtags like #BankBias and #JusticeForJamal trended worldwide. Celebrities and activists posted messages of support for Monica and her son. Inside the bank's headquarters, Richard stormed into Monica's office. This has gotten out of hand. We're under attack from every media outlet in the country. Monica glanced up from her laptop. Good. Maybe now people will take this seriously. Richard slammed his fist on her desk. You think this is good for business? We're being dragged through the mud. Monica leaned forward, calm but fierce. We're not being dragged through the mud, Richard. We're being cleansed. The customers are watching how we respond. If we do this right, we'll come out stronger than ever. Richard glared at her, but said nothing. Later that day, Monica and Jamal recorded a short video for the bank's official YouTube channel. They stood side by side in front of the company logo. Monica spoke first. "We know many of you saw what happened yesterday. I want to personally thank every single person who spoke out, recorded video, and demanded accountability. You're why change happens." Jamal stepped forward shyly. "I was scared, but seeing all your support means a lot. No one should feel like they're guilty just because of the color of their skin." Monica smiled warmly. "If you agree, please subscribe to our channel. Share your own stories in the comments. Let's make sure no one else has to go through this." That night, Monica received a call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Monica Carter?" A deep voice said, "Yes, this is she. This is the State Attorney General's office. We saw the footage. We'd like to talk about a formal investigation into your bank's practices." Monica froze. "An investigation?" "Yes, and we'd like your help leading it." Her heart raced. This was bigger than she ever imagined. "Of course," she said slowly. "I'll help." When she hung up, she glanced at Jamal sleeping peacefully in his room. "This isn't over," she whispered. "It's just the beginning." Would you support Monica's decision to go public? Let us know in the comments. If you believe this investigation is necessary, hit the like button and subscribe. Have you ever experienced
Monica sat in her home
office? Share your
early
story
morning
below.
sun
Casting a soft glow across the room. Her phone buzzed constantly, emails from lawyers, text messages from colleagues, and social media alerts. Overnight, their story had reached 5 million views. The entire country was watching. She glanced at Jamal, still asleep on the couch. His hoodie was pulled over his head, his face peaceful. Monica's resolve hardened. "This is for him," she whispered. A knock sounded at the door. Monica opened it to find Detective Alvarez, a tall man in a crisp gray suit, holding a folder. He introduced himself as part of the Attorney General's investigation team. "Ms. Carter, thank you for agreeing to meet so quickly," Alvarez said, stepping inside. "This case has the state's full attention. We want to interview you and your son formally." Monica nodded. "We're ready." Jamal stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. "Mom, what's going on?" She knelt beside him, brushing his hair back gently. "Remember how we talk about standing up for what's right? This is part of it. Baby, we're going to tell them everything." The next day, Monica and Jamal arrived at the Attorney General's office. Cameras flashed as they walked through the marble lobby. Reporters shouted questions. "Ms. Carter, do you plan to step down as CEO? Are there systemic issues at the bank?" "Jamal, how are you feeling after everything?" Monica squeezed her son's hand, shielding him from the chaos. Inside, the atmosphere was calmer, but charged with urgency. Alvarez and his team were waiting, ready with notepads and recording devices. For hours, Monica detailed every moment of the incident, from Margaret's initial suspicion to the police call. Jamal bravely recounted how scared he felt when officers surrounded him. His voice trembled, but his words carried great power. I thought they'd take me away," Jamal said quietly. "I didn't even know what I did wrong." Alvarez leaned forward, his expression softening. "Jamal, your voice is going to help change things. Thank you for speaking up." By the end of the meeting, Alvarez had enough evidence to move forward. "We'll be issuing subpoenas," he said. "This won't just be about one employee. We're looking at the entire culture of this bank and others like it." Within days, the story dominated headlines. Hashtags like #JusticeForJamal and #accountability in banking trended worldwide. Activists staged protests outside the branch where the incident occurred, holding signs that read, "Do better and bias is no place here." Celebrities began speaking out. A famous NBA player tweeted, "Jamal's bravery inspires us all. This family deserves justice." #JusticeForJamal. Talk shows debated the case, praising Monica for taking a stand. Customers began pulling their accounts from competing banks, demanding diversity and bias training. Inside the bank's headquarters, Richard was furious. "This is spiraling out of control," he barked at a board meeting. "We're bleeding investors." Our stock is plummeting." Monica stood at the end of the long table, calm but unyielding. "Maybe it's time we stop worrying about the stock price and start worrying about people's trust. We need to show the world that we're serious about change." Elaine, one of the senior board members, spoke up. "I agree with Monica. She's the only one here who understands what customers are feeling. We need her leadership." The room fell silent. Richard's jaw clenched. For the first time, Monica realized she wasn't alone. A week later, Monica stood in a packed courtroom as Margaret Hensley faced formal charges of filing a false police report. Margaret sat stiffly at the defense table, her expression unreadable. The judge glanced over the evidence. "Ms. Hensley, you knowingly reported a crime that did not occur, endangering a child's safety. This is a serious offense." Margaret's attorney muttered something about stress and misinterpretation, but the damage was done. The judge sentenced Margaret to community service, mandatory anti-bias training, and a fine. As the gavel struck, Monica exhaled. Justice wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Monica and Jamal again. Jamal clung to her side as microphones surrounded them. "Ms. Carter, how do you feel about the verdict?" Monica looked straight into the camera. "I feel hopeful, but this isn't just about one person. It's about a system that needs to change. My son should never have been treated like a criminal. No child should." That evening, Monica held a press conference in front of the bank's headquarters. The building's glass facade reflected a sea of reporters and supporters. She stepped up to the podium, Jamal standing beside her. "Today, I'm announcing a full review of our bank's practices," she began. "We are implementing mandatory anti-bias training for every employee, from tellers to executives. We're establishing a community advisory board to ensure that every customer feels safe and respected, and I will personally oversee these changes." Applause erupted. Monica continued, her voice strong. "This isn't just about our bank. This is about every institution that serves the public. We must do better." Jamal leaned toward the microphone shyly. "Thank you for supporting me and my mom. I was scared that day, but now I know speaking up can make a difference." The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. In that moment, Monica knew her son's voice had sparked something bigger than either of them. Later that night, Monica and Jamal sat on her couch, exhausted but relieved. Jamal scrolled through his phone, reading comments from strangers. "This boy's courage is incredible. Monica Carter is the CEO we need in this world. This story gives me hope." Jamal looked up at his mom. "Do you think things will really change?" Monica smiled softly, wrapping her arm around him. "Maybe not all at once, but every voice matters, Jamal. You started something today. That's how change begins." She turned to the camera for their final YouTube video on the case. "If you believe every person deserves respect, no matter their age, color, or background, subscribe to our channel. Share the story. Be the voice that stands up when it's hard, because the silence never changes anything." The video went viral again, this time not for outrage, but for hope. Headlines read, "Teen's courage sparks banking industry reform." CEO mom turns viral incident into national conversation. Monica received invitations to speak at conferences about diversity and justice. Jamal was offered a scholarship from a foundation inspired by his bravery. As they sat together watching the sunset, Monica whispered, "We turned something ugly into something powerful." Jamal smiled. "We did it, Mom." She kissed his forehead. "No, baby, you did." Would you have gone public like Monica did? Comment below with your thoughts. If Jamal's courage inspired you, hit the like button and subscribe to join our justice movement. Have you ever seen bias like this in your community? Share your story, your voice matters.